Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and internet alike. Welcome back to the Team Unconventional Podcast, or TUC for short. I'm your host, Matt, or you guys can go ahead and call me Surge1285. I'm here with my two co-hosts, JT.
Hey, blessed to be here once again for episode 2.
Sounds dope. And the Duke himself, Mr. Schiller, Mike.
Thank you. And I just want to welcome all the peasants back to the podcast. So happy that 16 of you listened last week. Try to stay humble. And make sure you stay tuned for JT's tuck joke at the end of this.
Okay. If you guys don't know, we like to add bloopers to the end of our podcast to kind of liven things up because we try to be official, but at the same time, we come with a less filter as things go on, and this is our second take. There's that for you. Teaser for the end. Hopefully you guys like what you hear, but we're going to open the floor today by talking about shiny hunting, because I know some of our cast members as well as listeners out there don't potentially like we don't really like participating in Pokemon tournaments all the time. So we try to fill our time with other activities such as shiny hunting. There's also, what is it? The not ribbon hunting, but the
Marks.
Yeah, the marks.
Hunting.
And a lot of people love doing that.
That's a deeper cut of I don't know if it's called time wasting or what the shorthand is, but aesthetics, things like catching it in the cool ball or shiny or these crazy marks that there are over 100 of. It's people love Pokemon. It's one of my favorite parts about Pokemon is it's how diverse the hobby really is. BGC is like 1% of people who enjoy the franchise.
Absolutely.
So today I'm excited to talk about some shinies.
Yeah, it's like when we go to tournaments and stuff, not everyone's there to battle against other players and see who's the best. Some people just like carrying around their whole collection of Pokemon that they've gathered and found in the wild. So that's where I want to open up, and I want to give it to Mike that will tell us his shiny hunting days and kind of give us a breakdown of how that went.
Well, first of all, I would like to suggest that we now change the name of the podcast to Two-Take Team Unconventional Podcast, because we haven't done one that we haven't had to do at least 2 takes on so far. So,
and take 2 is taken.
So we could do Two-Take Team Unconventional. Anyways, I digress. Shiny hunting, yeah. I think that that started for me in Pokemon Go, especially trying to catch the legend shiny, because when a new legend, say like Kyogre, came out, they would only be in raids, and there was a small chance that you could catch a shiny Kyogre in the raid. So that's where it started, and then community came along where you could catch a shiny of whatever the Pokemon that was for community day was. I think the first one that I did was with you, Jay, and a couple of our other friends, which we called Team Rocket Go, because we all dressed our avatars in Team Rocket gear. But it was Charmander was that one, and that was the first, I think that was the first shiny that I actually caught.
When Pokemon Go, or the second wave of this Pokemania, really captured you and me. I think that you had the entire first Pokedex minus the Pokemon you could only catch in different continents within the first 6 months of the game launching.
Yeah, but I cheated to do that, so.
I mean, didn't everybody at some point? I don't know if sure. 7 years in, people still cheat, but it's it's still going strong.
Spoofing is still a thing in Pokemon Go. Niantic has cracked down on it, which is why I don't do it anymore. I mean, I don't play Pokemon Go as much as I used to, but I really don't want to lose my account, so.
You hear that, Niantic? We do not spoof here at Team Unconventional anymore.
We did in Team Rocket, but not in...
That's right. Team Unconventional does not spoof. Team Rocket is a completely another story altogether.
They're bad dudes.
They are horrible.
Yeah, they disrupt me in many things I'm trying to do in that game.
So for people who may not play a whole lot of Pokemon or be hip to the franchise, which I'm sure there's one of the 16 of you that's the case, and in which case, what are you doing on this podcast? But a shiny Pokemon...
17 by the time we're done with this.
A shiny Pokemon is an alternate color Pokemon that naturally occurs in the mainline games every 4,000 encounters. What's the going rate? Do you have the math on Pokemon Go? How common that is?
I don't. Just out in the wild by yourself on a regular day, I think it's probably roughly around the same.
One
But
in
on
4,000.
probably something like that. But on community days, that goes way up because there's a park where I live called Riverfront. There's a park where you live called Riverfront as well, JT. But we used to on community day go down there and walk, and I would come home probably with 15, 20 shinies in roughly a 2 or 3 hour span because they were just really common. Because for community days, they up the chance of catching them. I'd go sit in the Target parking lot next to me and just move every once in a while, and I'd probably come home with 10 or 15 shinies in about a two hour time period on community days because they were everywhere. Because the spawn rate of that Pokemon on community day was turned way up, so the chance of finding one shiny went way up as well because there were just a whole bunch more of that certain Pokemon spawning all the time. Raids were a little bit different. They were a little bit, there's been times where I think I caught 3 shiny Kyogres in the time that they've been out at raids. I've caught shiny Deoxys, shiny Genesect, what other shinies? Caught a shiny Palkia, but that's all from raids. I do have a copy of a shiny Palkia.
Oh, that's dope.
Well then, so I don't know if we buried the lead here, but you're on the journey to catch an entire living Pokedex of shiny Pokemon.
I would like to, yes.
How much would you say that over 70% of your Pokemon that are shiny came from Pokemon Go?
Yes, I would.
Wow.
Which is no easy feat, to be sure.
No. And for the listener, how many Pokemon do you have that are shiny currently?
I think 125.
Wow.
That's a 10.
So 70 or 80 shiny Pokemon just from Pokemon Go.
I'm in that place, but I've also, I got some shinies from Matt here. I've gotten shinies from you.
Definitely.
And then
I've
done trades with other friends that I know from Pokemon Go for shinies that I didn't have. So I still have shinies in my home box that I've transferred over. So I still have some shinies still in Pokemon Go. I think I have a shiny Moltres sitting in Pokemon Go right now. As a matter of fact, where is my phone?
Who would you say is your favorite shiny Pokemon?
My favorite shiny Pokemon would have to be probably the guy that I consider my favorite Pokemon, which is Genesect.
So for the listener, why don't you tell us why Genesect is your favorite Pokemon? Because as you know, listener, every Pokemon is somebody's favorite Pokemon.
Except Dunsparce. Nobody likes Dunsparce.
How dare you? If you like Dunsparce and you're one of these 17 people, text in and let us know how awesome it is that he finally evolves.
Yes.
Oh, he evolves? Well, then he's probably somebody's favorite now that he evolves.
Easily. Every Pokemon is someone's favorite Pokemon.
Before that, no, there was no way. Absolutely no way.
Come on, man. I've got so many favorites.
So, sitting in home right now, I have a shiny Heatmore, a shiny Throw. I think that's his name. I don't know half these things. Belgium, Delibird. I have a lot of shinies right now.
Yeah, you got 126, but let's get back to why...
These are in Pokemon Go that I haven't transferred
my goodness.
yet, so there's I'm still scrolling. Okay, there we go. I have a couple shiny Dragonites. Why Genesect is my favorite? Probably because when I first started playing Pokemon, the card game, it was right there. I think it was black and white that we started with the freezing or whatever that was. I can't remember what sets they were, but they all had like Plasma Blast and...
Yes, the Plasma era.
So we started in the Plasma era, and my deck was set up with Genesect, Verizon, and that engine. And I just liked the way Genesect looked. I thought he looked really cool. So, and then when I got into the games, I got into Pokemon Go, and they released him, and I caught him. I thought he looked even cooler because now I could actually see what he looks like, and he wasn't condensed into just what he looked like on the card, which sometimes with some of these cards you see it's just like maybe the head or like the upper body, or you get, it's the cards have different art and they look different, but Genesect is just, I don't know, he's just it was just something that I played that in my deck, and he was really cool. I really liked him. He did some really cool stuff, so I guess that's why he's my favorite. It's not like I didn't grow up with him like, you guys have grown up with Pokemon. So.
Well, certainly it seems like you have grown up with him because Plasma Storm was over 10 years ago at this point.
Yes, but what I'm saying is I would have been 37 at the time, where Pokemon came out in what, 1990.
95 in Japan and 96 out here in the West.
So I was already, 19, 20 years old when it came out. Whereas for you guys, you were young childrens.
Oh, certainly. We were hit by Pokemania's first wave, and I would say that you were hit by its second wave, which was Pokemon Go. You played a little bit of the cards because I liked the cards, but Pokemon Go was really where you developed a relationship with Pokemon, independent of me.
Yeah, I played the cards because you were like, you want to play Pokemon with me? I was like, sure, young squire. I shall play this game with you and your friends.
And here we are now, 10 years later.
Pokemon Go was really just a way to kill boredom for me, I think. It kept me kind of, there's some issues. I have some issues, which makes it harder for me to concentrate on things or pay attention to things or even stay excited about things. So Pokemon Go was another way for me and you, at least, to spend time together.
Certainly.
And Matt was there as well, and his brother Tony.
If my phone allowed.
We never did anything illegal while playing Pokemon Go, such as driving while playing Pokemon. We never did that.
Nope.
So
no, I was really strong against that.
You kids out there, remember, don't drink and drive, and don't go and drive. Two things.
Certainly don't go and drive.
To horrible ramifications. But so yeah, and then I think I bought a Game Boy Advanced at one point in time and bought one of the games and was playing that with you back in the day when you went to one of the tournaments down here in Salem, and it wasn't an aircraft hangar. It was at the fairgrounds in one of the giant pavilion things that usually had probably livestock or something in there.
Certainly.
But that's where it was, and so I played it with you guys at that, and then
2013 about that point, at the X and Y era.
Kind of got out of everything, got into Pokemon Go for a little bit, and I was kind of out of that. And then I bought a Switch, and me and you bought the Pokemon Go, Let's Go Eevee and Pikachus. So I kind of got back in there, and then kind of dipped out, and then came back in at Sword and Shield, towards the end of Sword and Shield, and then got into Scarlet and Violet, where I started more shiny hunting by making sandwiches. If you don't know, in Scarlet and Violet, you can make a sandwich. And depending on what you put on that sandwich, it can increase the encounter type. So it can increase, you're going to see more water Pokemon than anything else. It can increase the shiny probability. So if you've gone through the game and you've gotten your shiny charm and all that stuff, you get a much better chance of catching a shiny. And I think my first adventure with that was for Tailscream or Screamtail. Screamtail. My first sandwich I made, I actually caught 2 shinies. I caught the Screamtail and the Fluttermane off one sandwich.
That's
and
dope.
I've done that a couple times. I've caught a couple shinies off of one sandwich before, but the majority of the time it's one sandwich, and the key to that is you make sure you turn autosave off before you make the sandwich. That way, if you don't catch a shiny, you can just restart your game and go back in and make the sandwich again and go back. That way you're not wasting your Herba Mystical, which is, the big ingredient that you need to make these shinies is you need the 2 Herba Mysticals it takes for that. But yeah, and so I've done that. I think I've caught 2 shinies in the wild, not doing anything, just running around. So that was pretty cool. I still have not been able to breed a shiny Pokemon yet.
Oh,
I think breeding's much harder to do than it is to find it in the wild.
It is because, you got to breed a lot. You got to get a lot of eggs.
Eggs.
Some people, I've watched videos, some people get, their shiny on the 20th egg, which, hey, cool, good for you. I don't really have, again, comes back to me, I don't really have the patience to sit there and try to get 600 and whatever it is eggs, because you have a 1 with the shiny charm, you have like a 1 in 600 and something chance.
So for the listener, you have a 1 in 4,000 chance to encounter or hatch an egg. You can cut this in half with the shiny charm that Mike mentioned, and in breeding, if one of the 2 Pokemon is a different nationality than the other, then it cuts it down even further. That it's statistically, I believe it's 1 in 600 at its best. I'll pull that right now, but the breeding is much more difficult because in this generation you can encounter Pokemon without battling them. and so you can go through and get several hundred encounters without doing a single battle. Whereas with the eggs, you have to take the process of finding the egg and hatching the egg before you know if it's a shiny or not.
And there are ways there's sandwiches for this as well. You can make sandwiches and eat that, which increases the amount of eggs you're going to get at one time. I think the most I've ever gotten out of one check of the basket was 10. So
yes, 10 is the maximum you can have in one basket.
And it came in pretty quick. But and I think it's a 30-minute. I think you're there for the sandwich lasts 30 minutes, so you can sit there and breed your Pokemon for 30 minutes. And one of the best ways to do it is you get, as JT said, a ditto of another nationality.
1 in 512, by the way, is the best Masuda method, is what it's called.
Which is.
But with the sandwiches on top of that, it would. Oh, and there's also on Cerebi.net, or anyone interested, it has a section also on something called the Mouse Outbreak Defeated Capture Bonus. So if you hit 30 mass outbreaks of the same Pokemon, you get a stronger bonus, as well as with 60. So that's a little fun fact for anyone out there who is interested in shiny hunting. There are even ways that Team Unconventional has no idea about.
Well, I know that mass outbreaks are a really good way to find shinies, because if you go to a mass outbreak, make your sandwich, then you have a better chance of encountering even more Pokemon, because it's a mass outbreak for one, plus your sandwich is going to increase the amount that are spawning on top of that. So, and I watch videos on YouTube about the best place to shiny hunt certain Pokemon. So there's a lot of research you can do out there as well on YouTube to find, if you're really interested in shiny hunting, and especially in Scarlet and Violet, where there are guys out there that say, hey, this is a really good place to go. You sit here, you make your sandwich, because this is a natural spot where they're going to spawn more often than not. And so that's a really good tool to use if you want to do some shiny hunting. Make sure that, and we can find, there's a website that Tony, who's not with us, found that gives you ingredients lists of all the shiny ingredients for sandwiches and how to make them. And we could try to find that and maybe post that in the description of the video.
Oh, I have that.
So
for the listener, this website is called game8.co, and its link will be in the description below wherever you found this podcast. I'll send it on over to our host here.
Tony had it pinned in our Discord chat of the exact. It's that website, but then it's the actual where you can just click on that little link and it takes you right to the sandwiches itself. You don't have to go to that website and then type in shiny sandwiches and do it. So that I know that is in our Discord, so we can get the pin and drop that URL, that link in there, which just make it easier for people to go right to where the sandwiches are. What I was trying to say. So
what drew you to shiny Pokemon? What draws you?
I think I like the fact that they look different for the most part. Just so some listeners know that not all shinies look that different. Let's talk about Mousehold. Let's talk about Mousehold, for instance.
That's
just maybe a lighter shade of gray. That's all it is. Or we had a Gimmighoul raid in Scarlet and Violet, and again, it was Gimmighoul normally is like a gray on the coin and the little clasp on the chest. Well, his shiny was basically supposedly just white.
Yeah, really hard to see, by the way.
So there are some Pokemon where, let's talk about things like Armarouge and the Charcadet. His eyes are blue. That's the only difference. And with Screamtail, his coloring is very subtle, but his eyes are red. So that's the main way that you can tell, okay, this is a shiny version. Whereas there are some that are just out and out blatant, like a shiny Dragonite is green.
Yeah.
So completely different. You can definitely tell when you have a shiny there. There are some other shinies, so you just got to be careful. Not all of them are obvious. Some of them have very subtle changes to them. So that can be the frustrating part of shiny hunting, is when you can sit there for a half an hour, hour and a half, because you have to make 4 sandwiches before you actually catch a shiny version of that Pokemon. I've also been lucky that I've gotten some shinies in surprise trades. Whether or not, like I got one that I know for sure is not a legit, because it was a shiny Hisuian Why can't I think of his name right now?
Zora.
Zoroark.
Oh, okay.
So I knew, and that was in a surprise trade. So I'm like, okay, well, I know that this is not a legitimate Pokemon, which is why I don't use him in my game. He's over in home. But it's just, you never know, listener, with surprise trades, what you're going to get. I got a shiny Ditto from a surprise trade from Japan. He was a foreign shiny Ditto, so.
Which is dope.
There are,
that's good karma right there.
there are ways to get, Shiny Mew was available only through a Pokemon Go event, and it's coming back. It is $5 to buy the ticket to get the Shiny Mew. I was lucky enough to get one of those.
Will you be doing that?
I don't know, because I've already got the Shiny Mew.
Oh. Congratulations.
I could do it and then give that Shiny Mew away in a surprise trade, or ask for maybe trade him for a Shiny Mewtwo, because I don't have a Shiny Mewtwo. And the only way to get a Shiny Mewtwo, I think there's two ways. One is through Pokemon Let's Go, and the other one is through Pokemon Go, because he's in there. So if I do have friends that still play the game that may trade me. The Legends are the harder ones to get, because you either have to get them through Pokemon Go, or you have to be very lucky in the game. Like, I don't know if there's a shiny Palkia in any of the console games, but it's a lot harder to get him in that than it was to get him in Go.
Certainly,
because I'd like to have a shiny Dialga. I don't have a shiny Dialga yet. There's several. Shiny Arceus would be dope. Don't have the Legends are going to be the harder ones to get, whereas the things like Charmanders and Dragonites and those are going to be a bit easier, because especially if you have a Pokemon Go account, because you can make friends with a whole bunch of people on Pokemon Go, and somebody might have a shiny Larvitar from a past community day that they'd be willing to trade you for something else. So it's easier.
I will note that Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield had shinies of all of the previous legendaries in their max raid dens, but it would involve many encounters in the max raid dens before you catch that Pokemon. So it is very difficult. Lucky. Yeah, you got to get. Fortunately, in the max raid dens, if you encounter a Pokemon and you don't capture it, you can save its run, so you could run and over the Mewtwo or the Landorus or whomever. But this is why shiny hunting is such an interesting part of the series to me, because shiny hunters will ram their head against the wall for thousands of eggs or hundreds of encounters just at the chance of a slightly different colored Pokemon. And then they took it a step further and they added the diamond shiny.
See, I haven't heard of that.
Okay, well,
why are you giving me this? Because now I want diamond shinies.
I'll give out some information right now. So the typical shiny Pokemon, when they enter the field of play, they have an animation in which stars spring out from under it, and it's called the shiny animation. Starting with Generation 8, they added another animation that was actually little diamonds, hexagons rather than stars. And these shinies are even rarer. They're about double the rate of the traditional shiny. So this, along with the marking, the capturing the ball, all these aesthetic changes are such a fascinating part of Pokemon. And I think they even started making shiny plushies at some point because of the fascination.
Now, there are other ways to get shinies. They're not necessarily the best way to get them. You can buy them on eBay. And what that entails, from what I understand, is you buy the Pokemon, but you have to have a physical copy of whatever game they came out of. Because you have to be able to go into that game, which is where they will trade it to you, and then you have it in your game and you can take it. Now, there are things that, there are some that are legit, and then there's going to be some that aren't, such as a shiny Urshifu, shiny Cubfu. Those, pretty sure you can't get those anywhere in the game.
Pretty sure those are shiny locked is what they're referred to as right now.
So you're going to find those to be generated, like, other shinies that are locked. Pretty much any shiny lock that you find on someplace like eBay is going to be a generated Pokemon. So,
here at Team Unconventional, we do not endorse generated Pokemon.
No, because there are consequences to that. You can lose, you can
lose access to your Pokemon home, and you can get barred from online events.
Yes, they have.
Maybe you should.
Pokemon Go has just, there are some people that, like myself, I'm never going to use these in a game I would just want them for my shiny decks. But doing that, you can lose access to Pokemon Home, which means you've basically just lost your shiny decks altogether.
And philosophically, you want this because it's difficult to do. It's not a thing that has value if you just open up your wallet.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I want it because it's different. It's not necessarily, it is hard to get, but it's also different. That's my thing, is I want it because it's different. I want to be different than say, you, who has a complete living dex. Or do you still have a complete living dex?
2 Pokemon shy, my man. One of which is debuting for the second time ever in Pokemon Go Fest this year.
Which one is that?
I'm not great with pronunciation, so apologies.
Neither am I. Spit it out there, buddy.
Diancie is the name. It is a
Diancie. Okay, yes.
Yeah, it was released to the public in the Alpha Sapphire Omega Ruby era, but this was a time that I wasn't actively playing or participating in events, so I did not grab it. And then the other one is the Pokemon that you obtain for beating Pokemon Sun or Ultra Sun and Moon. I accidentally transferred all of the Pokemon from my Sun into my bank and then my home right after completing it, before scanning the QR code and completing the thing. So that's that. Once I get this Diancie, that will be the last Pokemon.
Which one is that?
Its name is Meganetta. Meganetta.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
You also, fun fact, if you have one and you complete the remainder of the Pokemon Home Dex, you are receiving a different form free. So you technically get 2 once you get 1.
Okay, so that's the only place you can get. That hasn't shown up in Pokemon Go or anything like that?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the last 2.
People look out for that.
Yeah, well, once Pokemon Go Fest happens, I'm going to be running a Nuzlocke on my copy of Ultra Moon, and I will be completing my living dex. I made a deal with myself that I would play competitive Pokemon if I could complete the non-mythical living dex before Generation 9 came out.
Okay.
So that was kind of the first challenge that I put myself through, and I've continued to do that all through Gen 9. But the shiny dex, you might not know this, but there's an episode of the anime, like really early in the Journeys anime, where there's a guy who just wants to complete the shiny dex. He's got like 4 guys, but all of them are shiny, and it's super funny. And
That's so dope.
When you mentioned doing this, it made me think of that guy. I'll send you the episode off mic so you can see.
Well, to be honest with you, I hadn't thought about a shiny dex until Matt suggested it. I think that was maybe a month and 2 months ago.
Oh, so this is a new challenge.
The dex is, yeah. I've always liked shinies. I've always liked to catch shinies, but I had never thought about putting a living dex together. Even after you had started talking about it, that you were doing it, I had never thought about that until Matt said you should do a shiny living dex, and I said, give me something to do. Yeah, I should probably do a shiny living dex. So I started transferring shinies over from Go, which, let me tell you something, that can take forever because only get 1 shiny transfer every 5 days.
Oof.
Because it takes so much of your Stardust. I mean, I can transfer 6 legendary Pokemon for the same amount I can transfer 1 shiny Pokemon.
Wait, it takes Stardust to transfer stuff over?
Yes, you build it up. It's not part of your Stardust that you use to upgrade.
Oh yeah, it's a different currency.
It's a different currency. It's a different Stardust, and it builds up. Every 5 days it's full. So if I transfer 1 shiny Pokemon, I've got to wait 5 days to transfer another shiny Pokemon. Which is why things like my shiny Moltres are still sitting in my Pokemon Go, because I was transferring other shinies. I guess it's shiny legendaries are the ones that cost you all of it.
That makes sense.
You can transfer a regular old shiny, like 6 of those at a time with the amount of Stardust you're given, but you can only transfer 1 shiny legendary at that time. Whereas, like I said, I could transfer 6 legendaries, regular old legendaries, and it would take up my entire supply. Whereas 1 shiny legendary takes up everything. So,
well, and as someone who values shinies moderately, I'm really happy to finally put all of these ones that I've just stacked in my Pokemon home to use. But much like Go, it takes time to transfer them over to you because you can only do, I believe it's 10 trades with a friend every day.
Oh.
So there's about 20 to 25 shiny Pokemon that I need to add to your X as it is.
Which is still quicker than going from Go to home. But,
blessings, all blessings, baby.
So, and the nice thing about trading in-game, like Matt and I usually do, is those you can transfer right from your box into Go. So Matt can trade me as many. I'm not sure there's a trade limit in-game per day.
No, not in the actual cartridge.
No,
so if Matt
thank
had
God.
50 shinies, we could trade all 50 of those in one day, and then I could just put all 50 of them into home that same day. There's no anything like that. But yeah, I finally got my biggest completion on my shiny Living Dex is I have all the original starters, every form in shiny now. I finally got my shiny Venusaur.
Wow.
Because I went back, not Venusaur, Ivysaur. Because I went back
Ivysaur.
and I restarted. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, I did restart Sword and Shield, but before I did that, I had the Galarian Zapdos and the Galarian Moltres, and I was able to trade each of those for a Cubfu. So I had 2 Cubfus, which I traded into Sword and Shield, but then I went and I got my Cubfu. I think I traded one more thing for a Cubfu, which I was then able to trade the Cubfu for the shiny Ivysaur, because that's what the guy was looking for.
Cubfu being one of the most sought-after Pokemon in a long time, as it's the number 2 in usage right now in competitive doubles.
But at this point in time, I have 3 Urshifus.
Might as well have 3 pieces of solid gold.
I'm probably going to end up maybe looking to trade one of my Urshifus, the one that I got from Sword and Shield, because I think he's only at level 45.
How about you and me trade?
And the other one, well, I don't mind. I'll do that, because I think I went to the Tower of Shadows with that one. And I already had a Shadow and a Water, because I had those 2 Cubfus that I brought into Scarlet and Violet, and then just went and got the scrolls and did them that way. So, but yeah, I'd be willing to trade for him for something. And that's what I restarted Sword and Shield, and I basically got done with the main play in like 3 days, because I started it and I played for maybe an hour and a half the first day, and then I stepped away for like 3 days, and then went in and got through all of the gym leaders and up to the Champions Cup in 1 day, and then stepped away for a couple days, and then completed the rest of the story for the main story for Sword and Shield. So now I'm in the end game where I'm fighting. I don't want to give spoilers away. So I'm at the end now. I'm about past the end. The credits have rolled and I'm back in. So that's what I'm doing right now. But always looking for shinies. Although I don't think I've ever caught a shiny in Sword and Shield. So
Shinies in Sword and Shield is a little bit harder, especially when you're trying to get the legendary ones. And I know that we've already put on this topic and already passed it, but to reset in Sword and Shield is 15 minutes every single time. Just putting that out there. 15 minutes if you have a group. I've ran it a lot.
I've run it twice now. I've run I've reset the game once now, so I can go back in. And the only thing I was disappointed was I could not transfer my Shadow Rider Calyrex to home.
You have to split them up.
And I didn't know how to do that, so I didn't do it. So I'm going to have to restart the game at least one more time, which is fine, because that'll give me another Cubfu.
That's true. And another of all of the 1 per game guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is the Galarian Legends and the Regis, right?
Certainly. And then there's, if you wanted to get technical, there's all of them from the raids. But
True.
You would want to have your shiny charm. It is involved, but the first time that you complete a living dex, you effectively have a shiny charm on tap for any other game that you start. Pokemon's always been a game that I've restarted over and over again in previous generations, because it's always so much fun to capture the 1 per game things like the starter Pokemon or the legends. But with the introduction of home, it's really made it an advantage for if you want generations 6 and 7 with Bank, if you wanted the Pokemon to not be so terrible for competitive play when you caught it or wanted it shiny. And now in Generation 8, having multiple Cubfoos to trade in the marketplace of Pokemon Home's GTS, where effectively you could get anything you wanted for the price of a Cubfoo. It's a great time to be a Pokemon video game player.
The one thing I haven't figured out on there is how to say you want the shiny variant.
That would be an excellent update if you're listening, Pokemon Company. Let us demand shinies in our trade requests.
Because I know how to go through looking for shinies to a point. Because like I said, some of the shinies are not that easy to spot. I mean, the
Certainly.
Ivysaur was easy because his flower was yellow and he wasn't red. So that was an easy one.
Maybe just
If I
having sorry, go ahead.
If I didn't already have a Charmander or a Squirtle, those aren't. Squirtle's easier because I think he's purple, isn't he?
I think so.
Some of their levels, yeah.
And the Charmander was yellow, but what's the one that comes after Charmander?
Charmeleon.
Charmeleon. I can't remember if he was just like a darker shade of red or not. And also, the Charizard is black, so that one's really easy. But there are some that just you look at it and you're like, is that shiny? Especially on a little screen, and you're really trying to see. So that's the only issue I have with the Go only being able to trade on the phone, and the Home on the Switch not having the capability of trading as well, which I think is something else that the Pokemon Company should take into consideration.
Yeah, they're very different apps. The phone one can't do what the Switch one does, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I think that they should probably, in my opinion, being somebody who has a vision problem, it's harder for me to do stuff on my phone than it is on my computer or on the Switch, because the Switch is on a 55-inch television. So I have no issues there. So, I mean, that would be something that would be nice, as well as if they just unified, made them all modular and standard with the Home, so that people like me who can't really see what's going on the phone all that well can just turn on my Switch and pull it up and then be like, okay, so that's a shiny. That's what I want. Let's see what he wants. Let's see if I have anything I can trade to get what he wants, or if I already have it. So, or she wants, or they want, I should say, what they want. So, I mean, that was what it was with the Cubfoo for the longest time. I couldn't get that Ivysaur because at that time, that's the only Pokemon that I could, there was only one shiny Ivysaur every time I looked, and they always wanted a Cubfoo for it. This last time when I went and looked, they wanted other things as well, but I decided I'm going to, because I'd already gotten rid of, I can't remember what I'd done with my Galarian Articuno, but I'd already gotten rid of him somehow, so I was like, I'll just trade, I'll just put these two Galarians up for trade and ask for a Cubfoo and see what happened, and it wasn't even 6-7 hours later that I went back in there just to check, and boom, there they were. And then it was the same, I put something else up that I knew that I was going to be getting back, or had an extra one of, and got another Cubfoo, so. It's like right now I have two Eternuses, or whatever they are, the guy you get at the end of Sword and Shield, so I'm going to put the extra one up on for trade for something. I don't know what yet, but I've got two of them, so I might as well trade one of them away. Because honestly, this go around with Sword and Shield, because with Home, I can't remember what got it, but I had all three of the original starters from Sword and Shield sitting at home because I'd gotten them for some reason. Same with all three starters from Scarlet and Violet I had sitting at home because of the fact that there was a giveaway that gave them to you. So I just went in with all three of the starting Pokemon and leveled them up and tore through every gym leader with just basically Inteleon and Cinderace. So as soon as I beat
those starter Pokemon are so much more powerful than the majority of the field when you're playing through the main campaign.
And so as soon as I beat Raihan, I was able to train I could control any Pokemon up to any level, so I brought Urshifu over, and I brought a couple other level 100s over and just ran through the rest of the game. So once you go through it, and if you have Pokemon from other games or you transferred them, whatever, that are higher, it's a lot easier than the first time you go through it. At least it was for me, so.
Yeah, being a Pokemon master it has a lot of benefits.
No, I would not call myself a master.
What would you say is the threshold, Matt, for a Pokemon master? That term gets thrown around a lot.
How I see it is, if you are a Pokemon master, you are looking beyond just the basic story of a game. You have a bigger goal than what a lot of people are going to undertake, and that's what I would consider. Like Mike wants to complete the shiny decks for Pokemon, which is a vastly huge undertaking that I think a lot of players are not going to do. And being able to figure out how to get that shiny Pokemon and the lengths that you're willing to go puts you on the same level as maybe someone winning probably Pokemon Worlds. If you had, it's like the first person to ever complete the Pokédex for Pokemon Go when Season 1 came out. Like, wouldn't you consider that pretty high up there? Or
I
dude had
certainly
to have money.
The first guy who did it was that businessman from New York. I certainly would not put him as the same as Ray Rizzo or some of the other Hall of Fame level world champions of the past eras. But I would say that both are certainly Pokemon masters. My definition is a lot looser. Mine would be if you are not challenged by the plotline of Pokemon, you have achieved being a Pokemon master.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I mean, if you've played any game, any Pokemon game, and you have Pokemon that you have trained up to level 100, and you can bring them into another game, once you're able to use them, you basically have no challenge left in that game.
Well, certainly but also when you're playing the game, there's not, before Generation 8, there was no differentiator that told you whether a Pokemon was a ghost type or a dark type. And if you are no longer challenged by those type matchups by identifying what a Pokemon is, and you have a substantially different experience playing a mainline game during the campaign without even any interference from home, then a player who is not familiar at all with any of it and doesn't really even understand things like same attack type bonus or matchup weaknesses and resistances, like that is not a Pokemon master. But a Pokemon master could be given a blank copy of any of the games and do reasonably well because they would understand things like having balance in their typings of things like fire, water, grass cores, or Thunderbolt is way better than Thunder or Thundershock. In Generation 8 and 9, it's much easier because all of this is on the heads-up display. But even knowing to check into that is makes you a different type of player. So I think that you could certainly do that because you know of the 1,098 Pokemon we currently have, you probably know 600 to 700 of them easily by just their photo.
Possibly, yeah, or at least I might not know what their name is, but I might know what they do.
Right.
oh, does that mean I'm a Pokemon master since I went through Diamond and Pearl the second round with the Kadabra and had no way to evolve into Alakazam, but was able to get all the way up to the Elite Four with the Kadabra?
Sure.
I mean, Kadabra rules, but I think anybody who places higher than last at a Pokemon Regional would be a Pokemon Master.
So, we've talked about shiny hunting. Let's talk about Pokemon Go.
Yes.
Because when is Go Fest?
Go Fest, for the listener, is a year-round event that they have. It began as a physical place like New York or Chicago. It is now
just
global.
a minute, buddy. Hang on. You said year-round.
I'm sorry,
not year-round,
once a year.
it's annual. Yeah, it's an annual.
Yes, I have apologies.
That'd be dope if it was year-round.
Yeah, it would.
This year, it is in late August, the 26th and 27th. There's always some big thing. Last year was the debut of the Ultra Beasts in Pokemon Go. This year is the debut of that Diancie Pokemon. There's also physical events physical places that if you're there for the event, you get even bigger things.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that they do have it in a physical place. Like last year was Seattle.
Yeah, I don't know.
But everybody could still contribute. You could still participate everywhere because there was a global aspect to it as well. But the physical Go Fest itself was in Seattle. I know that it started, the first 2 years were in Chicago, and then I'm not sure where the third and fourth years were.
I don't know. I stopped paying attention after we stopped playing. It's like, to be fair, right? Like, I love Go, but the whole aspect of it playing for me was lost when we stopped hanging out like on the weekends to go like walk around places and hit all the Pokestops. It was a great time, As soon as we stopped doing that, I lost all interest in the game.
So did I. I would log in every once in a while, and I would catch you. I renewed interest every once in a while when more of my friends were like, "Hey, I play. Can you have things to trade?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have stuff to trade." And it got to the point where, when we first started playing, I don't think there was like good friend, ultra friend, best friend. I don't think that had taken effect yet.
No, we were day one people.
Yeah. And then I stepped away for a while, and then that got into effect. Whereas, you could start trading, but it cost Stardust. But the more time you spent playing with a certain person, or trading with a certain person, or going through raids with them, you built up a friendship level, and eventually a best friends. It costs less Stardust to trade between each. That was introduced, and I kind of got back into it at that point in time and built up friendships with people so that it costs less to trade things like, if I wanted a shiny Mewtwo and he had an extra shiny Mewtwo and I had a shiny that he wanted, we could trade, but we had to build up our friendship level, or we had to have a crap ton of Stardust, like millions of Stardust, to trade shinies at the lower friendship levels. So then I kind of got out and came back in, and I bounced back and forth. I wanted to go to Go Fest. Yeah, battling went away. This is
new
different.
Battling is incredible.
Yeah, it's different. It used to be you would fight gyms when you first started. You'd fight gyms and knock out everybody, their Pokemon, and put your Pokemon in there. And you can still do that. You can still go in and battle gyms, but there is the Battle League is now part of Pokemon Go. So
yeah, with giving out legendaries.
And I know I kind of wanted to go to. I think both me and Jay kind of wanted to go to Go Fest last year. The problem is my health issues. I can't walk a long distance. I mean, basically I can walk from, maybe 15 yards and then I'm done. So at that point in time, I didn't have my chair, and we would have had to get a place on the bottom level unless there was an elevator, and I would have had to rent a chair. All of which I didn't really have the money to do that. So we didn't go. It would have been great. It would have been fun.
I think that was 2 years ago, because last year I went to San Antonio for Go Fest.
Oh, okay. So it was 2 years ago then.
Yeah.
When it was in Seattle. So 2 years ago it was in Seattle.
I used Pokemon Go to fill up my Pokemon Home to the maximum capacity.
I used Arceus because it was better for me.
But I mean, if it ever would come back to the West Coast, I shouldn't say West Coast, because LA would be a little bit of a jaunt. But if it ever came to like Seattle again,
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, if it ever came to the Pacific Northwest again, especially if it maybe came to Portland, I mean, I would be definitely down to go do that. I mean, now that I have a chair now that's able to get me around.
Well, this year we'll be going to Salem for it. It's global.
Yes, but I'm talking about the actual event where things like when it was in Seattle, it was an actual. You went to the park. There were more things. You got more things for being in the physical location that Go Fest was being held in than you did down here in Salem. Like, we didn't get the beasts down here. The beasts was only
definitely did.
I didn't see them.
So you only get it if you purchase the ticket. It was not last year. Was not the specified event. Wasn't Santa. Exactly. Like, as of last year, you get all of the same things wherever you are globally.
Okay.
So this year, Team Unconventional is going to be in Salem, and we're going to be hanging out in the park. If you are listening to this and you're in the area, feel free to come by. We're going to have lures up all day and just kind of enjoying Pokemon and
I'm so glad that I'm getting this. I think we should have shirts made then, so people know who we are.
Well, it's a little short notice, but possibly.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not till August. We've got
We've got a little time.
Just T-shirts that say Team Unconventional on them. I'll make sure that mine has the humble on the front of it, the humble one, the shill, one. The Duke, His Grace.
So we'll be hammering this out off air this next week. We'll come back with an update.
Mike's shirt is just gonna have like the Duke and then all of his like surnames down, like pointed like straight down like a pyramid, and he just gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
And then on the back, no, it'd be get smaller and smaller as it goes up if it's a pyramid. On the back, it'll just say "Stay humble," little Team Unconventional right over the heart. But yeah, we can hammer that out. But I mean, if we're gonna invite listeners to come say hi while we're down there, all 17 of you, because I'm sure we'll pick up one
17
before then. They need to be able to know who we are. I mean,
It's pretty dope. I was actually talking to someone at work about our podcast too, and he seemed pretty interested.
And something else, is that's another good way to advertise this podcast. Is people
we're gonna be.
What's Team Unconventional? Well, it's this is how it started. We have a podcast on YouTube, possibly Spotify, possibly Google. I don't know where our podcast is right now.
I'm still working with Spotify.
By 2 months either.
I know that I've seen other people advertise their podcast on Apple, on Google. So there's a couple other places that we might look into. We're definitely on YouTube, or else you wouldn't be listening to this when you're listening to it, because I can't say you wouldn't be listening to it right now because it won't be up until sometime later next week. But yeah, I mean, I've been tempted to make business cards, that just with Team Unconventional and Matt's YouTube channel on it, so we could, if we go to these kind of things where Pokemon Go, where we know there's going to be a lot of people, Go Fest is going to be one of those things. If we have shirts, if we have something like that, people can say, hey, what is this? And we say, oh, here's a card. It's our podcast. We've got at that point in time maybe 3 or 4 episodes up. Have a listen. If you like it, subscribe. Tell people to sponsor.
Listener, we're gonna sell out and we're gonna have mad merchandise.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I'll sell out. I'll start making beanies. I get the money. There's stuff going on in my life that if it come through, I'll have the funds that I can do some stuff with. But just gotta self-promotion is what we have to do. We want people to start listening, and if we want, because I know that if we ever want to become quote unquote monetized on YouTube, we have to have at least 1,000 hours and what is it?
It's far more than that.
Like that. It's 4,000 of one thing and 1,000 of another, I believe.
Well, the amount of subs that you need now is 500, but you still need 4,000 watch hours in a year. So in a 12-month period.
So, and that might be harder for us, seeing how this thing's only coming out every 2 weeks. So, if it was
probably going to go to weekly.
If we go to weekly, might make it a little bit easier for us to hit that quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, monetized. Hit the monetized plateau that we need to get you to maybe start making some ad money or something like that. But and I don't think that's the main reason we're doing this. It would be nice. It'd be a little something extra that would help, could help Matt out with, equipment. It could help us out with buying, better mics or something like that for us. That would help.
Long term, it could help send us to events to see more of the listeners and everything.
I think we have an actual podcast, so we might as well start, signing up for these events as media.
Oh yeah, we'll be going. See, the second season of Generation 9 is going to be pretty fun.
I wasn't at the regional, so I don't know if they were letting people get booths.
No.
Booths, kind of like they do at comic book conventions. You can get a booth and
you
basically
can
self-promote yourself, saying, this is our podcast. Here's some merch. If you
not like that.
You can. There was a few side businesses there, like selling Pokemon memorabilia. I don't know about media stuff or podcasts.
There
like
weren't
specifically.
Any of that, yeah.
But I think
that's not there.
I think for the Pokemon company would really respect those who would respect its IP during like such events.
Yes.
It's kind of like walking into a business with like a billboard that says come buy my stuff here. No one does that. So it would be better to like maybe walk in and like vlog or like do your own stuff like outside of the event.
Or maybe not sell merchandise there, but maybe do a live podcast from inside to where, we're sitting there saying, we can say, we're here at the Portland Regional doing a podcast. We're going to talk about stuff. We're going to talk about, what we see go on today.
Certain players have like shirts that actually have like the Twitter handle and stuff on them.
And that's something else. If you think about it, we could sit there and do this podcast, and then maybe we could, talk to whoever wins the tournament. If they want to come on, we can interview them on the podcast after the tournament. Those kind of things, Eventually, if we get, to where it makes sense to do that, 17 listeners, I'm not saying we have 17 because we only had 16 when we started this thing, and 15 of them were me apparently. But
Yeah, man, that's
just things to think
Yeah.
about. Just things. Anyways, I mean, we could do a live podcast from a Pokemon from GoFest if it ever came back to the West, Pacific Northwest, and we decided to go. We could get,
Who's out
a
here using
laptop.
yawn? Sorry, go ahead.
Me. I'm out here using a long yawn. Damn it.
Hey.
We could, set everything up on a laptop and take it up there with us. And if it's a 2-day event, if we stay in a hotel or something like that, we could do after the event, we could do our podcast live from GoFest. Those kind of things. And we can still do that when it's down here in Salem. It's just live from GoFest Global instead of live from GoFest, the actual GoFest. Those kind of things are just things to think about, And if we do it, I'll definitely take credit for all of it because, I have to stay humble. But
That you do. Do.
I was unaware you guys were coming down for GoFest. That's very cool. I'll make sure that the chair is charged to its maximum capacity.
But this
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
until August, right? Like mid-August?
Yeah.
late
We've got-
August, the 26th and 27th.
And also something else. I'll talk to you guys about this off podcast. I don't need to talk to you about it right now. Yeah, GoFest sounds like it's going to be a blast. Anything else that you want to... Why am I hosting this? Matthew, get in here and host this.
Wait, you guys want to talk about Pokemon Go? I'm down just to let you guys talk. I'm currently
Yeah,
getting my face pushed
Tushy?
in by Delphox.
I was about to
Splitting
say...
his attention.
is there anything else we want to talk about? But that's not my job. That's yours.
Well, if you guys are done talking about Pokemon Go and like their current upcoming events, we can switch over to the
Hang on
NIC,
a minute.
or we can go with the Master Ribbon Challenge. We are getting close to time anyway, so let's head up with the Master Ribbon Challenge then.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about the North American International Championship is that it's proof that Pokemon players as a whole, even being 1% of people who enjoy Pokemon, really don't know everything. The entire year, it's always been talked about using Dondozo and Tatsugiri in tandem for the +2 bonus to all of its stats. But this event was won by a team that featured Dondozo as a lead partner to Ting Lu, and didn't even feature Tatsugiri on the team whatsoever. Dondozo using Yawn and Ting Lu using the trapping move Sand Tomb. A completely different strategy that nobody was using or even really considered. And all props to that gentleman. Dang, I wish I had his name. I'll pull it up right now, but it's just further proof that we don't always know what we're talking about in competitive Pokemon.
And also, I can't remember who won the TCG side, but the juniors was won by a Reggie Drago deck, which I've heard a lot of people were very happy to see that come back, and it's made a little bit of a comeback. I actually have it built, or I have a version of it built on TCG Live that can be kind of fun, but the fact that it won the juniors in whatever it is.
NAIC.
It was pretty. I mean, there was a lot of people like that I watched, like the gentleman Little Dark Furry was very happy to see that because he really likes that deck. So
Shout out Alex Gomez. You are the guy who
go Alex.
won.
Good job, buddy.
Won with Dondozo without Ting Lu, and you stopped Palafin from winning yet another major.
Congratulations.
So just all credit to him and his incredible team list. Check it out for yourself on like websites like Victory Road. Sorry that I didn't immediately remember your name.
To be fair, like watching day 2 of the NAIC was pretty interesting. I was a little sad to see that the last match was pre-recorded. Hopefully the parties involved didn't have anything terrible happen to them to where they couldn't compete live. But all the same, the matches were incredible. The casters that casted the match did a really good job. And I'm excited to see how Worlds turns out, which is also going to be in August. So that's going to be really...
What date in August, Matthew?
I will tell you because I forgot.
How dare you?
Well, like Worlds to me kind of I don't want to say that it fell off because I can't go, but
August 11th through 13th, by the way.
Awesome.
11th to the 13th.
11th to the 13th.
Okay, so beginning of
That's,
August.
Awesome.
That's gonna be dope. Hopefully we'll do some live commentary ourselves.
Oh, that could be fun, like a fight companion for Worlds.
Yeah.
I'd be down to do maybe a couple rounds.
Yeah. The second week of August. Ooh.
It would be quite the feat to do the whole stream fight companion style. The casters are honestly so great at calling matches. Really got to give it up to them. They always had, like, everyone on the team has a real deep knowledge of Pokemon, and there's got to be like 11 of them all in told. I'm excited to see who gets announced for the streaming of Worlds. Aaron Cybertron Zhang probably won't be on there. I imagine he'll be competing. But some of the other amazing casters, I'm looking forward to seeing who's on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Aaron will be competing for Worlds. I'm not 100%. He does qualify for day 1 at least. I don't think he's high enough to qualify for day 2, but still a good achievement all around.
Certainly.
Like there's no way to like get around that as a whole. It's incredibly amazing to see that these players put a lot of energy into being able to have the invite to Worlds. And I didn't realize this before, and I was telling JT about this. I didn't realize that people were continuing to play for the day 2 invite. I didn't realize that if you were on top of the leaderboard for CP, that you automatically got a day 2 invite, which means you didn't have to come in for day 1 and compete. And I believe that the travel fare would be free. I could be wrong about that one, but
yes. So every year, a number of players in the top finishing of several different countries. I'm not sure. I think they only break it down in 5 regions. Are comped a certain amount of airfare. This year, I believe it's not fully comped, but it is also a complete buy in the first day. But it's only this year the 8th, and CP was really not given out at the local level until the very end of the season, and many players have actually had their CP overturned, which is pretty interesting to follow on Twitter. The players, there's a couple in Latin America that went from being 3rd or 4th to 9th. So
Why is
CP
that?
is always this year was the first year that they reintroduced locals and started the Premier Challenges back up after the pandemic. And so I'm sure that some cases of places that had registered for the Premier Challenge, perhaps their paperwork fell through or some clerical error or something happening, and it's news and people are who run this, not perfect things. So there's always going to be something that happens, which is why it's so important to minimize the chance of outside forces influencing you. But there's always been a little bit of controversy in the Pokemon community. This year it was in I believe it's Korea. Was that where it was this year, Matt? Where they ran 6 metronome guys in protest and got lifelong bans.
this is the first I've heard about it, so I would not
Oh
be
my
the first.
goodness! I guess I'm the only internet troller and lurker. This year in Korea is where I believe it was. The top 8 all ran metronome on all 6 Pokemon in protest to how some of the conditions were. And that country's branch of Pokemon actually banned them permanently, which is a really stiff punishment. But it's at the end of the day, it is their right to do it. But when you are good enough to get in the top 8 of a Pokemon event, you very likely sacrifice a lot of things to eat, breathe, and sleep this game, like in all of the mathematic calculations and testing that is required to play at a high level. So to hear that you can no longer do it ever at a competitive level because you were protesting is tough. It's tough. But I guess I'll look into that and I'll link it for you so you can put it in the description if anybody wants to read me. And if I am wrong on the country, I really apologize. Don't ban me from your country's play. It wasn't America though. I know that.
Well, yeah, you'll have to send me that because I would like to read upon it and see what happened there. Because like, there's been a couple of stuff that's happened in the Pokemon Company that I've called into question, but I don't really know if I want to discuss it right now on the podcast, especially at the very, very end.
Probably a good idea.
So, like, if you guys want to hear like some of the stuff about that later, like maybe let us know. It's just more going to be like personal preference or like an opinions on different types of politics that could be introduced in the game. But we're going to try to keep it away from that so that we only focus on the one thing that we do like to do, and which is obviously we do play Pokemon because the fact that we do like how the game plays, how the meta is looking, how things can change and stuff like that. So we don't want to focus on the negative side. We just want to try to be on the more positive aspects. Like everyone's going to have their gripe, but we'll just focus on what makes us happy about the current status of games and move on from there. Does that sound fair to you guys?
Could not agree more. Very well said, Matt.
Okay, cool. So, yes, NAIC was a good thing to watch. I definitely enjoyed every bit of it. I missed the finals. I had to come back like on the following day and watch it. Day 2 was really good. I saw a lot of interesting teams. We've covered Pokemon Go. We've covered shiny hunting, and I think that's all that we really wanted to cover for today for episode 2.
Psych. We got the Master Ribbon Challenge.
That's true. Yeah, I just remembered.
Take
Posting
that.
this all on Twitter. I've been teasing you guys all week. We briefly mentioned it, and I sprung it on the two of you live on this podcast last week, and we had a very lively discussion about it off air, which was a lot of fun. And about halfway through it, I was like, nah, we need to save this for the podcast. So I took the week, and I thought of a way to present it. Effectively, this is a 1/2 personal challenge for me and 1/2 giveaway for our listeners. So we'll talk about the giveaway portion first. Every podcast really only can exist with you, the listener. And every podcast is very thankful for your time because there are only so many hours in the day that you can commit to any sort of media. And so a lot of them thank you for your time, and we definitely do as well. But I want me and the rest of Team Unconventional want to give you a little something. And so what I will be doing is playing a individual team for 2 weeks. I'll be posting about it on the Twitter. So definitely follow that if you want to follow it as it progresses in between these episodes. But each week, I will finish a new team, and starting in the next episode, I'll give you a breakdown in our little segment of the Master Ribbon Challenge. After the 5th week, the 5th episode where we show off a team, that will be the first giveaway episode. We're probably going to have a phrase or some sort of like password thing, and the first to contact any of us digitally, we're going to be leaving contact info. Like for myself, I'm on Twitter at AceTrainerJT. Matt is at Surge1285. We'll probably also have a podcast Twitter. We're on Facebook and Discord. We'll be giving all of that stuff out. The first player or listener to contact any of us digitally, we're going to allow you to pick any Pokemon from the 5 teams and trade them to you. You're going to need a copy of Scarlet and Violet, or in certain cases, instead you'd want to have Sword or Shield if you don't have Scarlet or Violet. You're gonna get one of my Pokemon each week that I have taken both on the ranked ladder as well as on in-person competitions and global challenges that occur during these times. So it's not a lot. If you play competitive, likely you're not really gonna need this Pokemon, because if you are a high-level player, you probably have everybody. But Pokemon is enjoyed at a bunch of different levels. So if you are, let's say, somebody who struggles to beat the Titans of Scarlet and Violet, these things are going to be a huge help for you. And they'll have the Master Ribbon Challenge, the Master Ribbon on their marking, because I'll be logging games. For instance, this first team that we'll be covering next week is it's 66 games so far. So the giveaway will be kind of fun. When a Pokemon is chosen, I will no longer be using that in subsequent teams. And any team that it's in, I'm going to try and keep it to 1 Pokemon at most will appear at 2 teams at a time, but they'll be locked into the same set on those multiple teams. The teams will be retired, and I'll start making replacements for that opening. and the Pokemon will no longer be on any subsequent teams. What this does for me is between now and our next regional event, I want to really grow as an individual trainer, and I have a lot of experience in competitive Pokemon, but in Pokemon, like in life, it's always really important to identify and work on your weaknesses. And so one of mine is, despite probably about 400 to 500 games with the Annihilate Mousehold team that I played at the Portland Regional, because certain Pokemon are less likely to come out in matchups, I had less experience with them. And this is a great way for me to become intimately familiar with Pokemon that I wouldn't normally gravitate to. For instance, if you're on the Twitter and you're looking at it, Chi-Yu was today's reveal. And I don't really play a whole lot with Chi-Yu. But it's been really great getting to know what it's good against, what it is weak against, kind of getting a really good mental on what its damage calculations are. For instance, a maximum investment without the Modest gives you about 70 to 60% damage on Cresselia with Dark Pulse. And just having that knowledge, I think, will make me a stronger player for the next time we play in some bigger events. So I'd like to invite the two of you to kind of ask some questions for the surrogate audience, as a surrogate for the audience, rather. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to hit us up and ask them, and we might be able to answer them before the next episode.
Yes, please do, because right now I don't have any questions. I think I've already voiced my concerns to you when you first announced this. While I do believe that it is going to be an interesting challenge for you, I also believe that eliminating Pokemon from your roster is kind of going backwards, but it is what you would like to do, and something that I will definitely appreciate being a part of the podcast, of giving out something to the viewers at home. It will be about 6 weeks before you guys actually get to see something, so about 12 weeks overall with how our schedule is. So it's about 3 months before you actually get to see some code be released and a Pokemon that gets picked. But we will have everything fleshed out, like content wise, not rule wise. The master rank, the master ribbon challenge is already like fleshed out the way that everyone has agreed upon. But by the time that you guys will have the ability to take a Pokemon away from him and get it for free so that you guys can use it and change it that you would like, and go from there. It'll have been quite a bit of time, so that even if a Pokemon was to be removed, he wouldn't be locked into not being able to use that Pokemon again, or at least have a team that doesn't limit him to just a smaller, I guess, sector of Pokemon. Because it does
certainly. We're 10 weeks away from giving away a Pokemon.
Yeah.
In the next episode, we'll have some footage for you guys and a breakdown of what the team is. And there will also be a rental code that will be displaying on Twitter and on the link in this podcast, so that you can play each of these teams as we progress. If you have trouble like getting through the ranked ladder, all of these will be pretty good. The first team's pretty solid. It's just over 50% win rate. And right now it's sitting at just under rank 4,000 on the master tier. So they'll all be good. There'll be some fun teams. It's going to be a tough ride, I think, after the 10th or 11th giveaway. But by that time, in theory, I will have already learned what I want to learn about that Pokemon. And so I'm excited. We definitely were discussing failure off mic, and I'm curious when we consider this a failure. Because in theory, at some point, you fail.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't mean to interject here, gentlemen, but I did want to go a little off this topic, back to the North American International Championships, and say that the winner of the TCG was Cyrus Davis, and they won with Inteleon Urshifu VMAX.
Yeah, I was so excited when they won. I was so excited.
So not only is Urshifu doing good in VGC, Urshifu, along with Inteleon VMAX, just took the North American International Championships. And as it says, it was a deck that nobody saw coming. So, anyways,
Proving
I just
that
want to
we
throw that
really
in there.
don't know. We have ideas, but we don't know.
I just want to throw that in
Pokemon.
there so that not only did the VGC winner get a shout out on our immensely popular podcast here, with our 17 viewers, but so did the TCG. So
Heck
Hell yeah. Well, anyways, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and close it off there. We're a little over time today, which is totally fine. I hope the viewers at home will like the not spoilers, but the bloopers at the end. And hopefully that you guys find
Outtakes.
Outtakes. I hope that you guys find the podcast entertaining as well as informative, because we try to do that most of all. And that's pretty much it that I've got for you guys. Do you guys want to say anything before we head out for the day?
Yes.
listeners, go ahead, JT. Go ahead.
No, please.
No.
Okay, you're gonna close this one out.
I'll
Okay.
close it out.
I wanna press on when this is a failure.
I think that's
Because-
something. Seeing how we're ending the podcast,
You wanna-
that's something we can do on the next one.
Oh, bummer. Well,
This is
till then,
we're
listener.
closing it out, sir.
I guess it'll only be a failure once you cannot build a team that's sufficient enough to actually play on the ladder. Sound good?
Yeah. We'll definitely, between now and then, listener, we'll get a win percentage on Wax. But I think that's a fantastic way to say when the challenge is over, because I don't want to do it forever, but I'll definitely do it for the next as long as I can.
So, listeners, in closing, I'd like to say that we can never stick to our time frame. We just can't. And second, stay humble. Always remember to stay humble.
Stay humble. That's the best way to end it. Well, thanks guys for watching, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. This episode will be released July 13th. So we'll see you then. Happy Thursday when you guys see this. And that's it. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Peace out, guys.
What up? I'm trying not to be tucked.
And the Duke himself, Mike.
Yes, thank you for listening, all of you peasants out there. I'm very happy to know that 16 of you have listened to this podcast. I will try to stay humble for you all.
Did you just literally call them fucking peasants?
Hey, can we restart that? I didn't like that tuck joke at all. That was a bad joke. That is not for the podcast. I apologize.
Not a problem. Okay,
Well,
well.
Matt just said fuck it, so I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's what I knew. I was like, okay, I can jump in
broke
and say restart because my joke was bad and we're already cussing.
Dude, you have to put this at the end of the podcast this time, Matthew. And that's what you can say. Stay tuned after the podcast
Yes.
for bloopers, for outtakes. Yes, these are the outtakes.